Good evening, everybody. It is my privilege to be here interviewing Neerja ma'am, and a book as fascinating, as riveting, as explosive as this. So I request all of you to buy a copy and read it because I started reading it a couple of days back, and I finished it in 48 hours. It is a thick book, but it doesn't let you put down. So, ma'am, thanks a lot for joining us, writing such a in-depth kind of a first-person account of our history. But let me begin with asking you a very simple issue. You have written about 6 prime ministers, and you have excluded 2 very prominent figures from India's post-independence history, the prime ministers, Nehru and Modi. Why?
I knew I would be asked this question when I was selecting the prime ministers. I had to go by a thumb rule, who to select and who to leave out, because I couldn't do 14 prime ministers and 15 if you counted Gulzari Lal Nanda also. I left out Nehru because I thought, my political consciousness starts after that. And I felt so much had been written about Nehru that mine would probably be a cut and paste job. Then I decided that I would take those prime ministers who had completed their term, 5 years in office. The only exception, as I said, was Nehru. The other exception was VP Singh, who I've included, who only lasted for 11 months. But I chose him because his tenure changed the political landscape of India for all time to come. And I think we are seeing what the processes he started continue even today, with power moving downwards to communities who have been on the peripheries. I started to work on Modi. I had not wanted to leave him out. He's too important to be left out. But as I progressed into it, I soon saw the difficulties. Because people were not willing, of course, I realized that it is work in progress. Things were changing very rapidly. B, I realized that I would not have the benefit of hindsight with Modi as I did with the other prime ministers I've written about. And C, very important, is that people were not willing to talk freely around him because he is an incumbent prime minister. And all those who've talked to me freely about the other prime ministers did so after they demitted office. So while I even wrote, I must be honest with you, I did some research and I did a draft also.
Now, I initially thought that you left Nehru and Modi exclusively for another book.
Who knows, yes. And in my epilogue, I start with a quote from Dr. Karan Singh, who has worked with every prime minister. And he said to me, Modi should be compared to Nehru. For he said, Modi will never, the exact quotes are, Modi will never admit this himself, but he would like to be like Nehru and to surpass him. So what you're saying, to do the two together, who knows in the future.
Options are open. Options are open. We'll go into each prime minister's decisions she has dealt with one by one. But before that, on a broader question, ma'am, you have chosen some of the most vulnerable moments in each prime minister's tenure. People, for example, with Narasimha Rao, everybody speaks about liberalization, globalization. But you have chosen the exact moment when he decided not to do anything when Babri Masjid was demolished. You have not chosen emergency, but you have chosen Indira Gandhi's decision to end emergency and then her rise back to power. Why did you choose these most vulnerable moments of some of India's most powerful personalities?
See, I chose decisions which had an impact on the country beyond the premiership of the person. And deep, you're right, I could have gone in for the economy, opening up of the, and liberalizing the economy. But this again is an issue, a decision, the non-decision by Narasimha Rao, allowing the Babri Masjid to come down, which according to his biographer, well, he didn't choose that word in relation to the Babri Masjid, but the 84 riots, his vilest moment. And I start the chapter by quoting him to 4 journalists who saw him 2-3 days after the demolition. And the group was led by Nikhil Chakravarti, editor of Mainstream, whose name many people will be familiar with, and who was also a long-standing friend of Narasimha Rao. So Narasimha Rao talked to him freely. And he was provocative and said, we heard that you were doing puja while the Babri Masjid was being brought down. And Rao got provoked and said, Dada, as he addressed Nikhil Chakravarti, you think I don't know politics? I was born in Rajniti. I allowed the structure to come down because I saw it would take away the BJP's main plank from its hands and bring an end temple politics that fueled its rise. Words to that effect. So, what was Narasimha Rao about? Even till today, the question that tantalizes people is, was he complicit? Did he collude with the BJP to bring down the temple? Or did he just allow it to happen because he felt a festering sore would be removed? That was his calculation, that was his way of dealing with the BJP. Why did he not exercise the options he could have exercised to save the mosque? Till today, that debate continues and has not been closed. So I chose that. But Indira Gandhi, if you'll allow me, just a quick word. Indira Gandhi emergency, yes. The creation of Bangladesh, a big decision, yes. How she got the better of the old guard when she became Prime Minister, all those were very important decisions. But I was personally fascinated, and this is a decision again that tantalizes experts today, even till today. Why did she go in for elections in 1977? She was completely on top of the situation, the economy was doing well. Of course, there were critics in the West, but there were no sanctions. I mean, why did she have to invite trouble for herself? Was she more Nehru's daughter and less Sanjay's mother, which is what some people have written about? So I was quite fascinated by this, and even more I was fascinated by how in 33 months she bounced back to power.
How?
That is what I've that is what I have explored. The use, the understanding the nature of power. I think probably nobody did it as well as Indira Gandhi. Statecraft, yes, and what we call real politics, saam, dam, dand, bhed. The use of that, and she employed those tactics to the fullest. I will just say, she got Raj Narayan, who demolished her, who defeated her, who was responsible for the High Court judgment against her, which led to the emergency, disqualifying her from Parliament. She got him on her side as her one-man demolition squad to bring down the Janata Party government, of which he had been a part. She neutralized Jayaprakash Narayan, who led this Bihar movement against her, again which led to the emergency. He did not speak from the time she saw him in 77 to 79 when he died, he did not say a word to her. And how she marginalized Jagjeevan Ram, who was the only one who could have become Prime Minister, when there was disaffection against Morarji Desai, there was a move that he become Prime Minister. She marginalized him, and she Hinduized her politics. She reached out to the RSS. It's not that she believed in the RSS. So she was a practitioner of real politics like few other politicians and prime ministers.
And there is a lot more in the book, so now you know why you need to read it. Now let's go to Rajiv Gandhi now. And you write in the book also that Arun Nehru said to Rajiv Gandhi that, why do you think you have got this mandate? You have got this huge mandate because of the consolidation of Hindu votes. So there is that realization in the dispensation. And yet, Rajiv Gandhi goes ahead and takes the Shah Banu decision. Why do you think that shift in his mindset, not real politics or something else?
See, this is a very interesting question about Rajiv Gandhi. Just to preface it, when Rajiv Gandhi became Prime Minister, we all remember that, or those of you, not the younger ones may not, he came like a breath of fresh air. He was seen as the hope for India. Young Prime Minister, forward-looking. Soon after he took over, he brought down the voting age, anti-defection law, technology missions, all the problems that had bedeviled his mother. Assam Accord, Punjab Accord, Mizoram Accord. He set about, he felt he must resolve these problems. And then in April 85, 4 months after he took over, there was this Shah Banu judgment. And it's a kind of judgment that we have every day in the courts of India, giving maintenance to an old Muslim woman in her 60s with 5 children, divorced by her husband who refused to give her maintenance. And the court said that she must be given 25 rupees per month. And it created a bawal all over the country. The Muslims felt that this was interference in the Muslim personal law, even though the judgment had been given under the Criminal Procedure Code. And Rajiv didn't know how to handle this. Muslims were out in the streets and so on. That story is all there. Then he brought in the Muslim Women Bill to placate to undo this section in the Criminal Procedure Code to placate the Muslims because they were his constituency. And then to please the Hindus who got agitated with this decision, he got the locks at the Babri Masjid opened to give unfettered right of darshan to the Hindus. These locks had been put there in 1950. 1949, an idol of Ram Lalla had been smuggled into the Sanctum Sanctorum quietly in the dead of night, and it remained there, but locks had been put on the grill. And people used to go from outside to worship, and this was allowed by the courts. So, both communities got very agitated. And in the 1989 elections, he came down from 414 seats to 197 seats. Such was the slump. Unprecedented majority. But the question you are asking, I'm prefacing it with the background for those who are not familiar. Arun Nehru, who Indira Gandhi groomed and hoped that he would help create a team for Rajiv Gandhi. This was before she died in 84. And Arun Nehru was instrumental in the maneuverings that led to Rajiv becoming Prime Minister on the day Indira Gandhi was assassinated, 31st October 1984. He was the most powerful person in Rajiv's government in the first months. He told Rajiv what you are saying. He said, do you think you became Prime Minister just like that? 5,006 were killed. And there was a Hindu consolidation in 1984. And he said, if you want this to continue, you will have to do 3 things. Remember, this is Arun Nehru and Nehru in Rajiv Gandhi's Congress government. You will have to do 3 things. you will have to build a temple in Ayodhya. You will have to abrogate Article 370, giving special status to Kashmir, and you will have to enact a uniform civil code. The core agenda of the BJP. So this Hinduization, the Hindu card.
Now my question is, there is a realization of this in the dispensation, yet Rajiv Gandhi goes the other way. Why?
Now Rajiv Gandhi goes the other way. Partly, it's a very interesting story which has not been unearthed fully. Between 1980, 82 and 84, he meets the brother of RSS chief, Bhaurao Deras, 3 times. He keeps in touch with him. Bhaurao Deras, when Balasaheb Deras, the RSS chief, was not keeping well, and his brother was looking after the political wing, he had been tasked with meeting up with Rajiv Gandhi and reaching out to them. And the RSS had been trying to get to Indira Gandhi during the emergency years, and they managed to succeed also, but that's a separate story. But Indira Gandhi got Rajiv to meet Bhaurao Deras. Now, this is also very interesting. Indira Gandhi would get information about her opponents. As a ruler, you need to know outside of the intelligence agencies, through other people, what your opponents are up to. What is their thinking? What's their strategy? So she was keeping tabs on them, in touch with them. And RSS supported the emergency, if you'll recall. And Balasaheb Thackeray was one of those, I say, who convinced the RSS to support the emergency, but that's a side story. Rajiv Gandhi, the RSS felt was completely a pliable entity. He didn't have ideological mooring, so he could be molded in a particular way. And just as they felt Indira Gandhi बहुत बड़ी Hindu है, could be the Hindu face in the country, take forward the Hindu agenda. They felt this about Rajiv also, he could be. Now, what were the counter forces that prevailed on Rajiv Gandhi is a story that still needs to be unearthed. And I would say, how much of an influence was Sonia Gandhi in this process is a subject, I think, of study, because Indira Gandhi told Fotedar, who I've quoted, her aide, ask Rajiv not to discuss his meetings with RSS at the dining table, because she knew Sonia Gandhi did not like the RSS. So anyway.
Ma'am, let's go to VP Singh. Let's go to VP Singh. And while concluding the chapter on VP Singh, you write, some see him as a cunning politician who, in a desperate attempt to retain power, let a genie out of the bottle which could not be put back. Others call him the messiah of social justice. And then you say, he told you, some run governments, I ran history. Explain.
VP Singh, as we know, was a feudal. He was a Raja of Manda, an estate near Allahabad. And he became the finance minister in Rajiv. Rajiv brought him in. And then he went on by raids against business people for their wrongdoings. He replaced Rajiv Gandhi as the Mr. Clean of Indian politics. And in 87, he went out of government, and then Rajiv threw him out. And then he took on Rajiv Gandhi. Bofors came on the scene. What had happened, the middlemen involved in Bofors, which became a big thing at that time, a fight against corruption. Bofors became synonymous with bribe giving and so on. And he defeated, within 2.5 years of coming out of the Congress, he had done what is the impossible today. He had created a national alternative to the then dominant Congress. Now, others had come out of the Congress, Ramakrishna Hegde, even Chandrasekhar, of course, was Prime Minister for a short time, but Mamata Banerjee, Sharad Pawar, then Jagan Reddy, they had gone on to become chief ministers of their states, but nobody had put together an alternative to the Congress, which brought together right, left forces in the center. And he went on to defeat Rajiv Gandhi and to replace him as Prime Minister of India, all within 2.5 years. And this genie out of the bottle, when he became Prime Minister, his government was beleaguered from day one. Because he got, the Janata Party was a conglomerate of a whole lot of parties. And he adopted the Mandal Commission report, which had been lying there in some dusty almara in the Government of India building. And it had BP Mandal, this was a commission set up by Morarji Desai, put on the back burner by Indira Gandhi. It recommended 27% reservation in government jobs for the OBCs. Now the OBC aspiration was on the rise right from the mid-60s when 9 governments in different states were formed, backed by the OBC support, and then again in 77. So he tapped into, knowingly, unknowingly, he tapped into an aspirational revolution that was taking place. And the rise of the OBCs is a story that, it's an irreversible story. Today, the BJP, which was a Baniya Brahmin party at one time, upper caste party, today, what are they talking about? They're talking about the most backward classes amongst the OBCs. They're talking about Maha-Dalits amongst the Dalits. They're talking about Pasmanda Muslims amongst the Muslims, giving them reservation and giving them what VP Singh used to talk to us, He would say, we are not talking about Sahuliyat. We are talking about Satta mein Shirkat. It's not tokenism, it's not, in a government, Nishad be given something, Yadav be given one ministry. No, for them to lead. And for Narendra Modi to make Draupadi Murmu the President of India. It's a tokenistic thing because she doesn't enjoy executive power. But if I was a young tribal woman sitting in Bastar, I would be so excited. I can be there tomorrow. Those doors are opening for me. So somewhere that tapping into an aspirational revolution that VP Singh did for the OBCs is very interesting that Narendra Modi is also doing today.
Ma'am, but you also say that Mandir was not in response to Mandal, but Mandal was in response to Mandir. How?
VP Singh, once said this, that when I became Prime Minister, I'd given my government 2 years. It got fast forwarded to 11 months. But I quote Govindacharya, who says that the Rath Yatra, it's not even that Mandir was a response to Mandal, even the Rath Yatra was not a response to Mandal. Rath Yatra was planned in the June of 1990 and the Mandal took place, the decision took place in August of 1990. And Govindacharya says that, how he talked to the RSS people and said we should have a Rath Yatra on the basis of a 1983 Ekata Mata Yatra that had taken place, taking Ganga Jal all over the country, which had received huge response. And how he first thought 4 people will lead it from different corners of the country and converge at Ayodhya, where they would have Karseva. And the others, Vajpayee, Sikandar Bakht, and Rajmata Scindia, they turned it down for whatever reason. Vajpayee felt it was a big nautanki. And it was only Advani left, so it was Advani who finally led that yatra. But all the details had been worked out by July 1 of that year. And the idea was to keep it under wraps till the middle of September. But when the Mandal decision was taken and announced in Parliament on 7th of August, then of course they built it. They had it exactly on timetable as planned, but it was revealed as, billed as a response. So actually the Mandir decision, Mandir came on the BJP's formal agenda in 1989, their Palampur resolution, and that's the way they were going. And VP Singh played the caste card. Again, the caste versus community is a thing we are stuck with even today.
Stuck with even today. Well, you spoke about Narasimha Rao, so we'll go to Atal Bihari Vajpayee. And you write about Vajpayee, he will be remembered more for what he was, a man who believed in walking the middle path. Now, India's most iconic Hindutva face comes to power and decides to walk the middle path. How do you explain?
You know, right from the 50s, when Nehru spotted him, and then, when Khrushchev had come to India, and Nehru gave a banquet. Vajpayee was an MP, so they were lining up, and Nehru was introducing all the guests. And he said, he introduced Vajpayee, this is a future Prime Minister. And he'd sent instructions to the embassy in the US, saying Vajpayee, when he went there, should be exposed and would meet important people. So Nehru saw his potential as a future leader. And even when Vajpayee would come and campaign against Nehru during the election, Nehru instructed his people saying, अच्छा बोलता है ना, बोलने दो, जिसको वोट करना है करेगा, नहीं करना नहीं करेगा. So that proximity with Nehru is also what he leveraged, and I say that in the book, to acquire a moderate image, an image very different from the right-wing Hindu party that the Jan Sangh was at that time and the BJP was later. And during his parliamentary career, 10 elections he won, across the board contacts that he had a fascinating relationship with Narasimha Rao. They used to call each other Guru and Guru Ghantal. Narasimha Rao helped him. He prevented Kalyan Singh from becoming Chief Minister of UP in 1995 because Vajpayee asked him. UP was his turf. Kalyan Singh would mean Advani becoming powerful, and Rao obliged him. And then when Rao had, you remember this JMM case, where Rao was convicted and then acquitted by the High Court, the government, Rao sought Vajpayee's help, and the government decided not to proceed with it, the case. And he came in for criticism. So anyway, Vajpayee had across the board links. A very fascinating thing, I know you want to move on, about Vajpayee is that he, in the 80s he had cancer. But in 2022, when I asked Yashwant Sinha, did you know if he had cancer? Sinha had been his finance minister. He said, no, I didn't know at all. It was kept such a closely guarded secret, and yet every prime minister sent him abroad for checkups. And no prime minister leaked that information. And after Rajiv Gandhi's death, Vajpayee said Rajiv Gandhi had saved his life. He had included him in the delegation to the UNGA, UN General Assembly, and he told him, you stay there till the treatment is complete. Subsequently, Narasimha Rao, other prime ministers sent him abroad. And as I say, such were the links across the board. Politics has its own place. You are in the opposition or in government. But in our country, maybe because we are a feudal society, maybe because we don't have strong enough institutions, but across the board links between politicians are a very fascinating phenomenon.
Now let's go to Manmohan Singh, and the title of the chapter is The Underrated Prime Minister Who Triumphed. And I'm tempted to ask you this, in spite of this title, do you think Manmohan Singh should have resigned after Rahul Gandhi tore down that ordinance?
Yes, I believe he should have resigned. Because when Rahul Gandhi tore that ordinance in public view, a decision taken by the incumbent Prime Minister, that was Manmohan Singh's weakest moment of his Prime Ministership. He was considered amongst the weak Prime Ministers because Sonia Gandhi was the power behind the throne. That is well documented. But the way he pursued the Indo-US nuclear deal, and that led to a new strategic relationship with the United States of America for a variety of reasons. Manmohan Singh showed a side of him which people didn't think existed. And that's the decision I've looked at. He used every trick in the book. Again, Samdam Dandbhed used national fixers, international fixers, weaned away the Samajwadi Party which was opposing him and opposing the deal on his side when the left withdrew support. How he did all that, the personalities and who helped him. It is a side of Manmohan Singh that we did not see in any other decision. So Manmohan Singh, the underrated Prime Minister in this particular decision, and he pursued it for 39 long months. And of course he had the friendship of the US President George
You are also
Bush.
telling me that he liked the title.
He liked the title. When I went to present him the book, immediately the thing he referred to was the title.
Now let's come to 2023 and obviously 2024. You write about Sonia Gandhi that she didn't want her husband to be the Prime Minister, but now she so desperately wants her son to be. And her son looks like a forever work in progress. Why she did not want her husband to become the Prime Minister? Why she herself declined the opportunity? And why now she so desperately wants her son to be? Please.
I said that's the most fascinating question of all the questions you put to me. Yes, when Indira Gandhi died, that day in All India Institute of Medical Sciences in Delhi, Arun Nehru and P.C. Alexander are there, and Rajiv has just arrived from Bengal where he'd been campaigning. And Nehru says to Alexander, we must get him sworn in immediately. He even said, the vice president can do it. The vice president was in the hospital. We don't need to wait for the president to come. Zail Singh, who had been traveling, though, was expected back. But Alexander said, let's talk to Rajiv. Rajiv was with Sonia, and Sonia was urging him not to take up prime ministership. And he was telling her he had to do it. And so she, at that time, was very fearful that what had happened to her mother-in-law might happen to him, which did. Then you come to 2004, which you've referred to, where she's elected. She leads her party to victory. She's elected as the leader of the Congress Parliamentary Party. She's elected as the leader of the UPA. They've accepted her. She's and Abdul Kalam, who was president, said he had the letter ready, and then she turns it down. And I have quoted Natwar Singh, who was at a particular meeting where he just happened to go there. There was Sonia Gandhi, Manmohan Singh, Suman Dubey, a friend of the family, Priyanka Vadra, and Rahul walks in. And he tells her, they killed my dadi, they killed my father, in 6 months they will kill you. I give you 24 hours to think about it, but if you accept prime ministership, I will do something drastic. And somewhere the mother in her overpowered the politician in her, and she declined prime ministership. And I remember VP Singh and Somnath Chatterjee of the CPM telling me at that time, हमने तो agree कर दिया था, everything was set, her children didn't allow it. Now, Now come to Rahul. Yes, she would like Rahul Gandhi to become Prime Minister, and for 4 years she remained interim Prime Minister after he resigned as Congress President in 2019 after the defeat of the party. For the grand old party of India and the major opposition party to be without a full-time president. Unprecedented. Because Rahul was making up his mind whether he wanted to come back or not want to come back. Finally, the Gandhi family took a very wise decision. Give it to a non-Gandhi family member, and Mallikarjun Kharge was elected as the president of the party. Now, Bharat Jodo Yatra, the Pappu of Indian politics, as the BJP managed successfully to dub him, goes on a 4,000-kilometer yatra from south to north. You know, I was in Bombay for some personal work, and I said, my God, something historic is happening, one must just go and see. So I caught up with him in Akola. And to get to Akola, I had to travel to 250 kilometers. And everywhere I kept stopping, talking to ordinary people. What do you think? What do you think? Do you know, I didn't hear one negative note. They all were so positive about Rahul. For the first time, somebody has come to us to listen to us and come walking. He's from a princely family, he need not have done it. So the whole image of Rahul Gandhi changed as a result of Bharat Jodo Yatra. But does that make Rahul acceptable as a prime minister candidate when pitted against Modi?
That was my next question.
That is the question mark. You know, his access to his party people, getting into the organizational thing. But let me put it this way, everything is in a state of flux today. Where things will go, we don't know. And it's a very rapidly changing situation. And remember, while they have got together as India, Rahul has a different image today. No doubt he plans to undertake the West to East Bharat Jodo Yatra also. And that has had resonance among certain sections. It's an evolving situation because the other side is not going to keep quiet. You have an Narendra Modi come Amit Shah, the largest electoral machinery in the world. And you know, it's a new breed of politicians you're dealing with. It's not Purane Zamane ke politicians. 24/7 out there. I mean, G20, the way now you can be criticizing and all that. The way they mounted that and the Delhi Declaration, a consent, you had the finest diplomatic minds working on it, as was said, 200 hours spent on it. And they got consensus with the Chinese and the Russians agreeing. And then to line up the world leaders at Rajghat the way he did, that the optics, the political significance of that optics. And I thought to myself, amazing consensus building. I wish that consensus building would also happen domestically.
You mentioned about I.N.D.I.A. Do you think many political observers say that this combination has more contradictions than the Morarji Desai government pushed emergency? And whether these inherent contradictions can, forget about prosper, survive together?
I would say no, because a lot of water has gone down the Ganga. I don't think the leaders today would have mega egos of Morarji Desai, Charan Singh and Jagjeevan Ram. They have learnt over experience. What they also know is if Narendra Modi comes back for a third term, they will be facing an existentialist crisis. So that also is what brings them together. Now there are a lot of problems. We've seen in the last 24 hours again between Aam Aadmi Party and Congress. We are going it alone in Delhi, Punjab, Haryana. Haryana has come up as a new state. It's Kejriwal state. So there'll be problems. But they have realized that forget everything, they don't have a leader to match Modi. Narrative is economic hardship, because the lower you go down, people are hurting. People are hurting because of unemployment, which is growing, and because of rising prices. Can they encash that? Or will, at the time of voting, will people say, my Hindu identity matters more than price rise? So what is going to prevail, we don't know. And this whole civilizational project of Modi's BJP, with all this tying in Bharat versus India, one nation, one election, and several things. So there are many things that India has to contend with. But if they can put up one candidate against NDA's one candidate, one-on-one contest, and do it, they are going to try and do it in 400 Lok Sabha constituencies. And remember, North India, the BJP had peaked in 2019. South, it just doesn't have the kind of footprints or acquired them. East will be also problematic. Therefore, where are the seats going to come from? But the bottom line for them is, if they bring down the BJP tally by 70, 80 seats, the game opens up. The BJP will have to rely on allies.
For that, absolutely crucial thing is 1:1 contest.
Or nothing else matters.
Nothing else matters. My last question, ma'am, if that is the case, then in 2024, what do you envisage? Modi versus who, or Modi versus what? And what do you think today is the Prime Minister's biggest strength and the biggest weakness?
As of today, as I say, it's an evolving situation. I see Modi coming back. Will India be able to get its act together? Question mark. I don't rule it out, but question mark. Modi's biggest strength, he's got the, his finger on the pulse of the people. I say this, I was saying to you before we came here, I sometimes feel I personally don't fully understand what is called the Modi phenomenon. And I think it has, of course, it is to do with Hindutva, Hindu identity, consolidating that with nationalism, national pride, patriotism, that element, with the rise of the OBCs, because he is an OBC Prime Minister. Devagowda is also an OBC, but he belonged to the intermediate Vokalega caste, but they are categorized as OBC. And then he is reaching downwards. He is a strong leader, 24/7 leader, who promises political stability, who people see, young people see in the urban centers at any rate, having taken India to a new high, and he has no family dough. So, all this is there. But I think the Modi phenomenon has something to do with an aspirational India. A small town, small village person feels, I can make it. And he's selling them those dreams that you can make it, that India can make it. So somewhere there is the other side of the story where people are hurting, of course. People are losing jobs, of course. But there is this side of the story. So I feel the Modi phenomenon has something to do with the changing India. And the nature of that change is something we need to understand much more. I myself feel, when I travel and have people articulate it, this is a phenomenon we need to understand more. Modi is a response to that phenomenon.
And the biggest weakness?
I would say, as I pointed to you, I wish the consensus building would happen at home, number one. Dissent. The minuses of Modi, I put 2 Ds. Dissent, respect for dissent, and diversity of India. If he comes back to power in the 3rd term, I would really like him to take steps which would make the minorities of India feel secure, not beleaguered.
Thanks a lot for that. Thank you everybody for being here. Dev Barakah.